Recording in progress. And I'm just like, over to JB for the next gen. Sorry, that was obnoxious.
All right, Scott, that's a verb you probably shouldn't put in the episode.
Yeah, you think?
We're going to ignore that. I just did not end that section neatly at all. Had to stop myself then from sounding too bad.
If you put it on the teleprompter, he'll just read it.
Yeah, you had quite the tennis arm at AMPS.
That was because of shooting. Like,
You got less padding, so when it hits your rib cage, it just bruises the inside of your arm.
You can clearly
Yeah.
tell you're British by the way you shoot a rifle.
we don't have them here.
Not an excuse. You ruled the world at one point. It should be genetic.
Anyway, I would like to I would like to talk about things. So, right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 137 of the Plastic Posse podcast. This podcast is brought to you by some great partners: Microworld Games, Tankcraft, Tamiya USA, Bases by Bill, and AK Interactive. More on our partners a little later on. Also, thanks to all our Patreon supporters, and a big thank you for making all of this possible. We appreciate all of your support. And it's been a very busy time since we all last got together, and we have a special guest with us today, Mr. Zach Grizzle. We will get to him a little later. So there's plenty to talk about in this coming episode, but first let's catch up with everyone and see what is or is not on the bench. Mr. Mayberry, how have you been and what is on your bench today?
I'm doing pretty good. On my bench, I have just finished the build part of a Yog Panther group build. Didn't get much time this weekend to work on it because of puppy issues, but I do have that almost done. I am starting and I'm going to say it, and get your beer ready, people, SMC build. That has started. I got some major parts together late last night. So I'm on the way. So that's good. I'm ready to go.
Beautiful. Very excited to see what you get together for SMC. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the episode. I know Zach's really excited for that part, but we'll move on to Scott. How about yourself?
It's good to see everybody, and looks like you guys had a pretty good time at AMPS. So we'll talk about that later, I'm sure. For me, the last couple weeks have been 100% focused on the Rocky Mountain Expo. Got a lot of, obviously, planning and preparation to do for that. So that's what I've been doing. Trying to find my next big project. I haven't really done anything on the couple things that are on my bench to speak of, but model show planning should count, I think.
Yeah, I'd like to think like a small task of planning a pretty big model show is enough to handle all at once. So I think we can forgive you for that one. Okay, JB, how about yourself? I know we've caught up kind of recently and you've been really busy, but anything on the bench for you?
Yeah, I have the DOSWork Yog Panther, as Grant mentioned. We're doing a little buddy build with a few people. It's been a good kit. I completely I think I've printed every Faustus set for Panther twice now, so I have plenty. And for our listeners, definitely check out Faustus stuff. It's pretty awesome. I redid all the welds on it with green stuff, so it's looking really good. I should be able to get it to primer this weekend, which I'm stoked about. I'll also talk about real quick. I finished a Firefly right before AMPS, and for all the evils of AI, I actually used AI for good, and I used it to help identify the location of a photograph that was taken of the vehicle, and helped me identify the street where it was taken. It couldn't find that, but it did give me the email to the local historical society, which I reached out to and asked them in Dutch, have they seen, do they know where this building is in their small little town? And they actually responded to me, and they pointed me to a building that unfortunately was burned down and rebuilt, but They sent me the exact location, and I sent them 2 photos, so they were actually going to research and get back to me on the other one. So I thought that was pretty cool. I plan on taking the Firefly to Europe and making a trip out there. I think Thursday I'll probably do it before SMC kicks off, or sorry, Friday before the show officially kicks off, and check out that little village. So I thought it was a really cool experiment, and it really worked out well.
No, it's really cool. As much as I like to give AI a lot of crap, it really does have its uses, and it is really, really powerful in that sense. So, can't complain there. But yeah, you've been really busy, so that's really cool. TJ, yourself.
What have I been doing? Not a whole lot. I can't even remember the last time I was on an episode. It's been a while, right? It's been like a couple of weeks. Oh, my cat just knocked something over. That's nice. Really the only thing I've got on my bench is this little Matilda 1 from Gecko Models. Rob Riv gave it to me when we were at AMPS, and I started painting it. I love the Matilda. It's so stupid looking. It's just a terrible, terrible vehicle, but the model is very cool. And yeah, that's pretty much the only thing I've really been working on. Like JB, I also finished a Firefly right before AMPS, maybe a couple days before. So yeah, I don't even think I got a chance to talk about that last time I was on an episode. But yeah, other than that, just been playing Diablo 4 because the new expansion came out last week, or I guess, yeah, last week. Yeah, I've been working a lot too, so I haven't had as much bench time as I would like.
I suppose that's fair. You know, busy lead up to a show and then a big show. It's nice to have a bit of downtime to not model, in my opinion, anyway, after a show. But hey, that's just me. And then to our guest, who is currently screaming at his door, Zach Grizzle. What have you been up to?
Well, have you know I was lightly whispering at my door because my
Literally
wife was behind the
raging.
door. I was shaking my fist at everything. I am, as usual, working on 27,000 things at once. I've got some little random Warhammer stuff I've been messing around with. Last night, Jensen convinced me to start the BF 109 that I bought at AMPS because, you know, you go to an AMPS show and somehow come home with 2 planes. I'm not really sure how that happened, but well, I know how it happened. Angel had 50% off on his kits and I couldn't pass that up. I've also been working on a long-term kind of like slow burn project in preparation for next AMPS, which is a Baldwin converted M32A1B1. So it is an M32B1, which is the A1 hulled M32, but instead of normally the A1 designation in an M32 is HPSS. In this case, it's E9 suspension. So it's a pretty big project that I have blown way out of proportion with the amount of stuff I've done with it, which is why it's taken me 2 years to barely do any work on it. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I've got on the bench, really on the bench. I've got other stuff I'll look at the box every now and then, but that's really what I'm trying to hit hard right now.
So you're gonna make a project harder? That's weird.
I know it's not like me at all. It's completely unlike me.
Did
Yeah.
not see that coming.
When you were starting to lose your mind trying to 3D print the whole, and it kept failing, I was just like, you know, there's a perfectly fine plastic one that comes in the box that would make your life so much easier.
See, that would work if I hadn't gone through 2 of the styrene hulls, one from this kit and one that I stole from another kit 2 years ago, trying to use that I ended up completely messing up. So I now have to go buy a new one from Asuka directly. But yes, I have given up on my attempt to fully 3D print the lower hull tub of this thing because it's given me nothing but pain and suffering.
I think given how much you are 3D printing for that kit, like all the bits on the inside, the mechanics of it, and yeah, and you put some pictures in chat the other day, they printed really well. I think the lower tub can be forgiven for not being printed.
I think so as well. And it'll also maybe not warp into like this weird 8 shape. It just never works.
Can't wait to see it at AMPS 2034. So, myself, I can't remember the last thing I said I was doing on one of these episodes. I know I was stressing about getting a KV1 done for AMPS. I can report the KV1 was done for AMPS, pretty much. It was a lot of last minute stress work in Jackson's in home office. Whenever there was any downtime the week before the show, I was kind of working on it and trying to get stuff done there. I also attended the Nova AMPS meeting, Nova AMPS, which was fun. I managed to work on some of the details of the build there. So yeah, that's done. The only thing on my bench at the minute is I'm still working on the Earthfix Mark 5B Spitfire, the 148th one, for YouTube, which is couple days work and that's done. Then I just need to mash all the clips together, do the voiceover, and I really love that process, the video editing. I genuinely I can sit there for hours, get lost in it, gain it all right. I just really enjoy that. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Again, talking to Zach, been trying to plan for SMC and AMPS next year. Really like the theme of like recovery, mechanical vehicle, that sort of thing. And we both have Scammell Pioneers of different brands, but pretty much the same kit. We are nearly convinced. I'd like to get that done. I've also got the Thunder model Scammell Pioneer with the big trailer. That would be really cool to do. But again, that's also really large, and I've got to try and take that from here to Pennsylvania again, which I don't care. I love going to America. I was very depressed when I came back. We'll talk about AMPS a little bit later on. But yeah, apart from that, since I've come back from the great USA, I have been doing nothing but gaming and relaxing like I don't do it all the time. But yeah, I've been gaming a lot. But yeah, that's kind of me. That's what I have been up to.
Cheers, Jensen. Thanks for the update. We certainly miss you after AMPS, but let's get into what caught our eye on the Plastic Posse page. So, Scott, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, what really caught my eye is something, and I've actually purchased some of this. Jeff V, I'm not gonna say his name. Sorry, Jeff. He's been doing amazing work at Stillpot Studios, particularly for the Andes M3, M3A1 half track. So lots of amuse bags and stowage items, and in particular this week he just kind of, I forgot to paint this helmet that he sculpted, and it's just beautiful. This 1/16 scale GI helmet, and has got a full liner on the inside, straps on it and everything. Just, it's amazing. It really reminds me of a lot of, the way that Spud and some of the Four Corners guys approach, each individual component of the build is kind of like its own little build, and anyway, his painting and detail work on the USGI helmet in 1/16 scale is what caught my eye. So great work by him.
Yeah, he was at AMPS. It was pretty awesome. His Steelpot Studios did really well. I think enough of us pressured him to make 35th scale bags for British folks that I'm fingers crossed he does. His wife even laid into him as well, so that was entertaining. But I think at least 5 of us stopped by and said, you should really do this in 35th scale. So hopefully that's on the horizon.
Yeah, on some of those sets I purchased from him, it's really great. They're really great products. I can't recommend them enough. But like, I bought a container of like 6 Muse bags. Everything he does, like each individual casting is different. Nothing is the same. So you're not going to get a bag of the same casting 6 times, right? As armor modelers, between, Steve Munsell and Value Gear and Stillpot Studios, we are really spoiled, I think. What about you, Grant?
So I picked, and I'm going to butcher this name, I'm sorry, Sun Yoon Jin. He did a Marauder 3H. It's a dragon kit, 1/35th scale, really muted 3-color camo. Really, really, really looks good. Really impressive. I like the H model of the Marauder. I think it's just a really kind of cool looking kit. Did a really, really, really good job on it. I really like it a lot. So that's my choice.
It's a good choice, man. I love that Ausführung H of the Martyr. That gun piece right in the middle of the hull looks really sharp.
Yeah.
And he's a great modeler from South Korea as well. I always love his work. I'm going to pick on Pete Kokla. He has a Sherman M4A3 76. Really well done. I think Pete is a sleeper cell when it comes to building allied armor. Always enjoy his work. And shout out to Pete again. He gave me the advice of using a medium gray for dust on top of olive drab, and I haven't looked back since. I really love that color combination because of the desaturated look. So Pete's an expert at that, and I just want to give him a shout out for his M4A3. Looks awesome.
Yeah, that's a good choice, JB. I was actually going to pick that one right as you were like typing it in, our little outline. So thanks. But that's okay, because that let me pick Zach P's Y-Wing little diorama, like little, I'm not going to say airfield because it's a spaceship, but I guess hangar diorama. I think it's the Bandai kit. He did a little 72nd scale Gonk droid, which Gonk droids are the best. So if you add one of those to your Star Wars diorama, you'll get bonus points. And yeah, looks really cool.
That's also a great choice, TJ. That's a really, really sharp diorama. And like you said, the The little droids that he added are super cool. Great job, Zach.
So I was looking and I saw DB Scale Model Studios, David Bridges, his little VK 16.02 Leopard, which is one of my favorite like paper Panzer designs. It's such a funky looking, super German looking thing. And he's got it on this nice little base. It's going over like a cobblestone road, and he's got two Alpine figures on the side. And it's really nice and compact and what you want to see in like a vignette base, which is something that I still kind of struggle with, is I want to expand things out way more than they need to be. But he has kept it really nice and tight, and like there's nothing that doesn't need to be there. And he's got a really cool camo scheme on it where it's a traditional like three tone, so yellow, red and green, but there's also a couple little bands of, I don't know if I'm assuming gray, like German gray, and it really adds this super cool pop to the whole thing. So yeah, I love this. And the wood grain on the tools is amazing. Overall, just absolutely incredible piece.
Yeah, can't argue with that. I was like fractionally close to choosing that one, but a bit like TJ said, that opened the floor for me to choose Martin Holst's build of the Dark Heart. He's named it. It's an SF 3D AFS Mark 1 suit, and it's an old 120th Nito kit or Nito. I really like this because the base is like the perfect size for the model, and what he's shown is, as well as really good modeling, he's created a very atmospheric and moody scene with the minimal amount of space. And I really like that. He's shown you can actually create mood and atmosphere with a very small footprint. You don't need big elaborate scenes. The modeling itself is very good. His color palette, the weathering, the scene itself is all just wonderful. And I really like how Martin does his bases with the text on them. The simplistic, but the eye-catching enough where it's not just that's just a base. He decorates them nicely. But yeah, again, Martin, great work. I just love it. I couldn't not pick it when I saw it. Thank you, everyone who posted their work on the page this week. Be sure to add your work and show us all and everyone in the community what you have been working on. And in the next episode, you may be chosen and have your work discussed by us. So yeah, please keep posting. We do love to see it. Moving on, recently, in the past couple of weeks, we had the AMPS Nationals show in South Bend, Indiana. That was a really good time. Unfortunately, Grant and Scott were not able to attend, but hopefully we can all give a nice breakdown of the show and keep them informed of all the ongoings that happened. I'll give a very brief, because I traveled there a week before the show, so I'll give a very brief rundown of the silly activities I got up to. So I flew in the Thursday prior to the show. I flew in, met up with Jackson, which obviously involved the first night I got there. Lots of heavy drinking. That's kind of just his bread and butter. It was against my will. And then we did silly activities. We went bowling, shooting. I managed to attend the Novamps meeting. That was fun. Great bunch of guys up there. Lots of just messing around, doing fun, trivial things for a week. It was great. Again, Jackson's not here, so I won't dive into that too much. But it was the typical American experience. I got to eat Raising Cane's. It was wonderful. Life could not be better. I got to eat it twice, in fact. But yes, come Thursday, we had exactly about 10.5 hour drive up to Indiana from where we were. About that.
On the way up there, yeah, it was a little shorter on the way back for some reason, but yeah, like 10.5 hours on the way there.
Yeah, Earth rotation and all that made it quicker.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's how that works. But yeah, we had a nice long drive up there. We set off not as early as TJ and Jeff. I know they set off like when it was still dark. We slept in. I know you and Jackson insist it was my fault we set off late. Absolutely was not.
It definitely was, but okay.
We set off at a reasonable time. The sun was up. But yeah, we got there. Once we arrived in Indiana, we didn't go to the Airbnb we were at. We actually went to the show straight away. We met up with the guys, saw everyone. They were all in the vendor room, scoping it out, seeing the things they wanted to buy. So that was fun. It's great meeting up with everyone again. It's the whole reason I do these shows. Get to meet everyone. TJ picked me up because I said he couldn't. He did. Yeah, it was great. And then after, I think we got there with like an hour left of the show on the Thursday. So we scoped out the trader room. There was purchases going on in advance, as we all do. We like to purchase and buy things. Hit the Airbnb. Everyone freshened up a bit. Went out for our evening meal. That was a great time. I had chicken fajitas and a humongously large margarita, which was not pleasant for me. It hurt my soul. So, right, anyone who is listening, I'm not a big drinker, contrary to what Jackson will have me do, and I found that drink just a bit pungent for my liking. But anyway, nice meal, back to the Airbnb, everyone having a great time, models on the table. We're doing the show before the show, which I think is always fun. Everyone puts their builds out on the table. We all have a look, a study, a scrutinize. We all like to give each other a bit of grief. Always fun. Jump in. Like the first day of the show when you all, I know everyone arrived slightly staggered timing, but the energy was high on the Thursday.
Yeah, I love AMPS in South Bend. I think it's a fantastic location, and this year they even expanded in terms of vendors and space. So overall, I really enjoyed the show. As always, there's opportunities we can talk about those, but speaking about the show itself, our listeners, yes, it's predominantly armor, but they do allow sci-fi and there's figure entries. But man, I tell you, the vendors were really, really good. Angel from Microworld Games. I think Squadron brought their whole damn shop, which was incredible. And they're expanding not only their 3D line, but they also started doing terrain pieces as well, or static grass, tufts, and really expanding there. That was a surprise. They had a boatload of kits, including the 3D printed tractor tug that's 48 scale, and then they're coming out with a high-speed tractor in 35th that they're prototyping right now. So again, I give a lot of credit to Brandon and the crew at Squadron. They've really revitalized that brand. Who else was there? Hobby World USA, Last Cav. Gosh, Michigan Toy Soldier, David Doyle Books, Casemate. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So from a vendor perspective, I actually think it was 10 out of 10. I think one of the things that venue and the show actually suffers from for being in that venue is that it's very, very big. So it makes it look like attendance is low. And I heard some numbers that I think there was 60 or some odd models that were less entered than the show last time. The energy felt good. It's just with a large room like that, it does feel a little open. But in general, I don't think you could pick a better spot. I love the town of South Bend. So many great restaurants. I mean, Notre Dame's right there. I went for a run around campus a few times. Just freaking gorgeous place. So, we can talk about the opportunities in a little bit, but my first impressions is AMPS did a bang up job of the vendors, and then also their registration, like pretty seamless. More of the opportunities come with the judging and the timing associated with it, but we can get back to that in a little bit.
Yeah, I just want to mention that registration. Like that was really smooth because we arrived and Jackson hadn't registered for I think the show or his model. But yeah, he was done in literally seconds. Like got there, did it, in and out. Models on the table, free to explore the trader room. So really smooth process there.
Yeah, one of the issues, again, opportunities as we talk about AMP's judging system, for our listeners, the model doesn't go directly on the table. They have a station called a ramrod. They take that back to the back room and then they judge back there. The problem is there is always a lag between the time you enter your model and the time it goes on the table. Sometimes it can be quick. Actually, rarely it's quick. But most of the time it does take a lot of time. For instance, the models I entered Friday morning, basically when the show opened, I feel like some of them didn't get out on the table until Saturday morning. And then I entered my Firefly because I had to fix something on it, like honestly before lunch on Friday, and it didn't make it out until nearly lunchtime the following day. And I think that's the big opportunity. I think, and I'd be happy to work with AMPS on this, I think it's a combination of things. I think it's teams taking a little too long to evaluate models. I think that's a big one. And obviously having more teams always helps, but something needs to be done there, to be honest. I think only because if you're someone that's going that hasn't entered models, you wanna look at stuff that's been entered on the table. What's nice is they don't close the judging room for judging. It's just open all the time. But I will say there's a visual cue there when you walk into a show and you see either full tables or empty tables for entries, and I think that can influence how you feel about the show, honestly, as soon as you walk in the door. And in some cases, like if you're walking in on a Friday, there's not a lot on the table to look at. And you kind of jam everything in on Saturday to run around and see things. And then by the time you start really looking at stuff, honestly, they're pulling models back for best of judging around like 3 o'clock, maybe even a little bit before that. So I do think there's an opportunity on the AMP side to improve that show piece, the exhibition piece, where more things are out sooner. Because gosh, there was even a staging area with probably, I don't know, like 40, 50 models on it outside of the judging space, just waiting to go in. So I don't know, maybe there's a temporary spot to publicly display models before they go back to judging. I think there's a fix there that needs to happen just because it's just tough. I want to see everything, and you end up cramming it in all on Saturday. So that's another point of feedback I think I'd give to them.
Yeah. For me, it was a great show. Like you said, the venue I thought was wonderful. My first ever time in Indiana, first ever time in South Bend. Obviously, I thought the area venue great, and the only criticism I have, it seems like a strange criticism, is because of the size of the venue, which is odd to say. Oh, the venue was too big. It's better than it being too small and too cramped. It did feel empty. There was a few times I was stood in the hall. I was like, not looking at my watch because I don't wear one, but I was waiting for the floodgates to open for like the public to like rush in, like you tend to get at stages of shows. And I was just like, oh, this is it. And again, I think that's just because it was so big, so everyone was spread out more. Again, sounds like a weird thing to complain about, like, oh, venue was too spacious, but
Yeah.
it just made it feel slightly emptier.
I will say, one of the things it did feel, this is going to be weird, but it's almost like gotten to a point where there's no new faces at AMPS. And I mean, literally, I feel like everyone knows everything, which I think is good. Don't get me wrong. That's the positive of AMPS, where it is a community. They have that, I can't tell you how many times either I said hi to somebody or I see groups of guys chatting. Like there is a lot of camaraderie at AMPS. I think the one big opportunity they have though is like, where are the new faces? Who are the new folks coming? And I think those are onesie twosie a year, but it's not like a big show in Europe or even the, IPMS Nationals where there is a lot of I'll just say random people going. I don't think AMPS has that. I think they do have a big opportunity to get new people at the show.
Yeah, so I don't want to pile on, I guess, and beat up AMPS because I love AMPS. I enjoy going there. I love my club. We have a great club, as Zach knows, because he's comes to meetings fairly regularly. Jensen saw what our meetings are like. Like our club is great. AMPS is fantastic. But to JB's point, this has been brought up by more than one person. There's a lot of gray hair there, like a lot. I am in my mid 40s and I felt like I was consistently the youngest person no matter where I was. Yeah, I don't know what they can really do to bring not kids, just younger people, middle-aged people, because the average age of attendance there was not middle-aged, it was geriatric. And I know that scale modeling is kind of like an old guy hobby and it has that, connotation, but there's a lot of non-old people that build models and build armor models, but they don't want to come to AMPS. Either they don't know about it, which I feel like is probably a lot of it, or they're just not interested in what AMPS has to offer. Now, that's two things that can be fixed. And like JB said, I've spoken to Neil about this and in the past, and we'll speak to him about it again. Obviously, we're all willing to help, make correct some of this. But yeah, it really struck me this year just how old all these people were. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm not like trying to insult anyone. You have no control over your age. That's just the way time works. But it was shocking, that's maybe a little bit strong, but it was eye-opening for sure.
Well, and I remember at the award ceremony, like, they always start with juniors, and there were no juniors.
Yeah, zero juniors.
So there is a very good chance that I, at 25, was literally the youngest person in that building. I don't know of anybody else who would be younger.
Harrison was close.
Potentially. Well, I think he's 25 too. I think we're like the same age. So we would be like the youngest people in that building, which is kind of crazy. And it's never been quite like that. There's always been a couple juniors kind of like hanging around. I think that's the
Uh,
problem is that they want to get more juniors in, but then like my age bracket, like 20 to 30, there's no push to try and get us in there. And these are like we are the younger people who actually model. Like all of my friends around my age who model, they're not younger than me. They're either older than me or right at my age.
Yeah, this is what I've said forever. And even when I was on the IPMSE board, like, yes, juniors are great, but I'll be honest, I entered junior models back in 2001. There was like two or three entrants at that time, and I was one of them. So juniors has always been a low category, and those juniors are typically the junior of a modeler that is already attending the show. So in terms of like new blood coming in, I'll be honest, not a lot of new blood there. The juice is worth the squeeze at the 20 to 30 range, which Zach just mentioned. It's the disposable income. You're out of school. You're looking for a hobby. Maybe you just started family and you need a de-stressor from work, from life in general. That's the category to target. But yeah, I mean, as we're talking, like we've kind of digressed from the show itself and maybe talking about more macro issues with AMPS, but they're good opportunities to talk about. Like there's a lot of good stuff there that people can lean into. I mean, gosh, like I said, I really love the show. The seminars were great. Like Jeff had a packed house at his. The award ceremony was super fast, which was nice. And it was just overall really good. I think there's just the biggest opportunities with member numbers and staving off the decline.
Yeah, again, I'm gonna say what I just said had nothing to do with how good the show was. The show was fantastic. I had a great
100%.
time. We had fun, and like JB mentioned, like I know a lot of those people, and getting to see them again is good. Anytime you walk around that show, you're gonna run into someone to say hi to and talk to that you know, and they're probably gonna introduce you to someone that you don't know, and that level of community at AMPS I feel like you don't really get from a lot of other shows, national level shows, especially not even like the IPMS Nats. And some of it has to do with scale, right? Like AMPS is smaller because it only focuses on, armor and a little bit of like science fiction and that kind of stuff and some figures. But that's one of the benefits. Like, bigger is not always better. But yeah, it was a great show. I don't want to, again, I'm trying not to be too negative because I had a really good time and I had fun and there was some good work on the table. And it was good to see a lot of people that I haven't seen since last year. So yeah, it was awesome. A little far away from my house. I like it better when it's at Camp Hill because it's like less than 2 hours from my house.
I'm really excited for the 3.5 hour commute to get to it next year.
Yeah, at least this year I didn't have to drive by myself like I did 2 years ago when Jackson bailed on me the day before. This year it was me and Jeff, which was fun.
Well, we had to force him into the car at gunpoint this time. He was going to try and bail again, and we were like, no.
Yeah. Well, I was actually convinced halfway to Indiana you were going to bail. Like, sorry, I can't.
Sorry, I got to take the dog out, guys.
Yeah, the Zach disappearing act.
I will say, again, we talk about the good and the bad here. I think a big opportunity for AMPS is understanding what the expert class is. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I'm not sure what it is. I'm even walking away more confused after this show. So I sent AMPS an email. I'm a man of my word. If I have feedback, I'll contact people directly, and I'll more than happy volunteer to help right the ship or at least discuss the merits of a new tier, which I think is a little bit confused right now. And I think there's a big opportunity there because I mean, yeah, I just don't know what it achieved. But I don't know. TJ, I'm sure you have thoughts on this too.
Yeah, I mean, it's the elephant in the room, I guess. And since
Yeah.
you brought it up, I guess I can go ahead and talk about it. Yeah, expert is dumb. It's a stupid idea. I was not in agreement with it when it was proposed during the working groups. I had a solution that I think JB, we had talked about before. I talked to Neil last year after AMPS last year, and that solution isn't just another class that's just the same, except you don't get a bronze, which again, my point when they announced it is it doesn't matter because no one gets bronzes in advanced anyways. Like the amount of bronzes is insignificant to the number of entries. Like I went back and looked at like I think 5 years of just the last 5 years. No, you know what? I did the 3 years that I've been the past 3 years, and there was like 4 bronzes out of all 3 years. So you're not preventing anything or making people or forcing people to to model at a higher level or to push themselves when you already weren't giving them bronzes for their work. They were either getting golds or silvers. So to me, there was no point. Um, my recommendation was make it hard. My recommendation to Neil when we spoke about this a year ago was before expert was brought in, is advanced should be hard. It should be difficult to earn a gold there. And then best of should be selected by all of the gold medals in advance. And if you limit the number of golds in advance, you then make it easier to choose a best of. Because right now the way they do it is it's all mathematical. If you get a 30 or 30.5, you're automatically chosen for a best of. Well, they give them out so easily that there's a bunch of them. So then a lot of times it's only the 30.5s. Sometimes there isn't enough 30.5s or there isn't any, so they have to do 30s. But their own literature says it's all the gold medals. So in advance, the point spread to get a gold is pretty low. It's like 2 points. And my recommendation was should be more difficult to get a gold. The actual number shouldn't matter because then you're getting to half points, which can be when you don't have consistent judging teams, then that half point is meaningless in a lot of ways. And then what the ACJs can do is take all of the gold medals, look at them, then they can look at the score. They can also be a check against the field judging teams because some teams are really hard, some teams are more lenient. And since there's no consistency, despite the fact that they say that there is, and training, well, it's people, so there's never going to be 100% consistency. But yeah, expert is dumb. It makes no sense. It was easier to get a golden expert than it was to get an advance, I think, because it was like 75% of models in expert got gold. And frankly, and I'll be 100% honest and whatever, a lot of them weren't deserved. Just straight up. They were not as good as what was in advance. Because at this point, a lot of the people in expert, it was just a numbers game. They've been going for so long and they've been getting golds for so long that they automatically get bumped up to a higher level, even though they haven't actually pushed themselves to a higher standard or a higher level of finish. But because they've been going for 15 years, they get to be an expert. And I'm sorry, it makes no sense. It doesn't actually reward anyone to push themselves the way that the judging and the levels are set up to make people do. This doesn't do that. And that's one of the beauties of the AMP system. And JB mentioned it in his email to the e-board is that the way the tier system makes you grow or encourages you to grow and push yourself as a modeler. But when you get to the top, they just stop doing it. And what they chose to implement is not how to do it.
I'll just say real quick from a data perspective, I ran the numbers and I think it was around 45% of advanced modelers took gold this year. 70% of expert modelers took gold. Last year, nearly 50% of modelers in advanced took gold. And those numbers are really high. And I even went back in 2010, I think I pulled the data from. Only 27% of advanced modelers took gold. So there has been a shift, considerable shift in kind of the medals being awarded. And it's always interesting that to be honest, it's in some cases participation award comes to mind. And I don't say that, flippantly, but like there's a like I'm a little I would like and I know AMPS is going to look at it. So I think they can address this opportunity over the next year, and I'm happy to help them. So I think it's a big one for the show to help get back to the core of what AMPS is about.
Yeah, I think just my kind of final 2 cents on that matter regarding expert advanced. It's going to get to a point where by default everyone's in expert, no one's in advanced, and if you just replace one category with another, it kind of does the same thing. Personally, I just couldn't when I saw it all happening and how many people just this year were bumped up to expert from advanced. I was like, okay, it's going to get to a point where you've just moved everyone from one to
19 people were bumped
into
expert.
Yeah. Again, I really like AMPS. I like a lot of it. I just thought that was like, okay, cool. Not what I would have done, but like you say, they'll review it, they'll work it out. Teething issues. It was a new thing they've tried. Who knows? It might be gone next year. But yeah, apart from that, great show. And everyone did really well in the competition. Competition wise, like everyone medaled. It was good. I do have to. We've worked out that TJ is my muse for me to do well and get work done because he needs to run his jar, and it makes me get stuff done. Thanks for that because it did result in my KV getting a gold.
Highlight the cake that was given to TJ by our good friend Aaron.
That was a wonderful cake, and it was so generous and so heartfelt. It tasted amazing. But yeah, that was a lovely gift.
So for our listeners, it said "Better luck next year," TJ on it. I
That
think
was
the best.
before the awards too.
That was
by the way.
before the
This
awards.
is before the awards, which was
Before
even
the
funnier.
awards show. I think the best part was is when we walked into Dairy Queen to ask for it. Think I said like a nice message for TJ on it. I forget what I said, like "We love you, TJ" or something. And then Aaron looks at me like, "No, she shouldn't write that. It should be better luck next year, TJ." So I ran around the corner,
No,
yelled
that was
at
Dustin. Dustin.
Dustin. Yes, Dustin's like, maybe do better luck next year. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll run over there and say it. And she popped her head out. I'm like, can you do this for us? And she's like, yeah, honey, no problem. And so she wrote it up. Oh, it was gorgeous, just gorgeous. So,
Yeah, that
um,
was pretty funny.
And then Jeff dropped his piece all over Aaron's shoe.
mhm.
Uh,
Yeah,
Well, it was a literal brick of ice cream, right?
Yes.
So I don't know if any. So I'm used to Baskin Robbins ice cream cakes, which have a layer of cake at the bottom and then ice cream on the top. Well, Dairy Queen ice cream cakes are
Ice
quite
cream.
literal, just ice cream in cake form. So there's like a layer of vanilla soft serve that's like I guess frozen like with dry ice, or they shoot it into space, so it's like near absolute zero when they make this because it's like the hardest substance known to man. And then they put, the essentially a blizzard on top of it, and it had sat out for a while, and I finally was like, I was using like this big butcher knife, and I'm like rocking it back and forth to like try to like wedge pieces off of it. I felt like it was like the beginning of that movie Frozen where they're like cutting the ice and singing that song. I have kids, so I watched that movie like 25 times when it came out. But so Zach or Jeff had a piece, and we're all sitting outside in a circle, and he's like trying to use his fork to like cut into it, and it just goes whoop like the like when you drop a bar of soap in a tub, and it just goes whoop and like shoots up and then like lands right on right on Aaron's legs. And I was like, oh, and he like throws his arms up like, I'm sorry. And I got a picture of it. It was really funny because there's like ice cream everywhere. And I think he also dropped the plate, which somehow didn't break.
He
I don't know
threw the
how.
plate.
Through the
Yeah.
plate.
He launched.
Yeah. So
It was like a Renaissance painting.
it was. Yeah.
Hanging in the Louvre.
Hanging in the Louvre.
But yeah, it was great. It has to have been great because I already can't wait for next year. Like on the drive home, I was looking at flights ready for May, so it'll be a tad warmer. I know one thing I noticed, Indiana, very cold. It was very similar to UK climate up there, apart from the tornado we all slept through. That was fun, getting those storm warnings. That was an experience. As I was told, I got the typical Midwest experience. So that was fun.
I will note about the tornado experience. We all had those notifications on our phone. We went outside and looked at the storm. It was gnarly. The best part though is I think McElhaney shared a video in our group of like an overhead cam, and it was the news saying like don't shoot fireworks into tornadoes, and that was literally our neighbor across the street where they had that giant party. They were lighting off Roman candles into the tornado. But as Jensen mentioned, next year it's a little later. It'll be May 20th through 22nd at Camp Hill at the Paris Hotel. Another cool little venue. I really enjoy that show, and the bank is already booked for 2027. So super stoked to go back to Biff's Hangout and the Vault. So
I can't wait for
listeners,
the
look.
bank.
Oh, it's going to be great. So looking at the countdown timer on the AMPS website, we are 382 days away, 8 hours and 7 minutes. So plan your stuff accordingly. Should be a great time.
Yeah,
And
like Jensen
hopefully-
said, the
Sorry.
theme next year is pretty cool. It's recovery vehicles, and engineering vehicles. It's like I guess like a combo theme. So lots of opportunities. Engineering vehicles are sweet. I've already got mine all planned out, and already got everything for it. I got one thing. I got a set of tracks coming in the mail. That's the last thing I have, but yeah, it's gonna be cool.
Yeah, I usually show themes. I don't want to say. I think they're dumb.
They
This
are.
one, yes, they are. This one's really cool. Like it's just a great theme. It's like, yeah, I like it. Big scope, big opportunity to do lots of different things. And it's good because it's not limited by time period or anything. It's just engineering
Yeah.
vehicle. Boom.
I'm doing that weird Panzer III giant mine roller thing the Germans had, I think. That's what I'm gonna do.
Nice.
Jensen, what are you doing?
Um, Scam Pioneer, hopefully. I've got the
Oh,
IBG
nice.
one. I've got the IBG one, but I've also got the Thunder Models one with the big trailer. I'd like to do that, but the trailer again, with them both together, that's a really big model to try and bring. We'll see
Can't
where I get to.
can't wait for you to kick it off May 1st next year.
We know our strat. The system, if it isn't broken, don't need fixing. Apparently leaving things to the last. Hey, if things can be left till the last minute, it means they only take a minute to do. That's my philosophy, and it works every time. It works like 40% of the time, every time, or whatever the
I
saying is.
I can't wait for it to just like explode in your face one day
One day it is going to catch me out, but that day has not yet come.
when you're just like, I need to get this done, and then you've got like two parts glued together and you're at the show.
I blame my friends. They are the root cause of all distractions in my life. Yeah, it's a burden to have friends so good.
I'm planning to do a Churchill Arc. It's an armored ramp carrier. There's a really cool picture of they're all 79th Armored Division, so like Hobart's funnies. There's a really cool picture of one. It's in England because it's during training where it's, if anyone doesn't know what a Churchill Arc is, it's just a Churchill without a turret. They put a ramp on it with like two ends. They would like drop down and make it's essentially like a bridge. And what it would do is it would like drive into a ditch or drive up a escarpment, and then a tank could drive up the ramp. And there's a picture of them. I think it's somewhere in England. I'm not sure. I have to look at the picture where it like drove up to a small cliff, dropped its ramp, and there's an A4 Sherman driving up it. It's a pretty cool picture. So that's my plan is to do that. I already have everything. There's a Resi kit, Resicast conversion kit for a AV Club Churchill. I bought that. AV Club has an ARC, but it's like just came out last year and it's really hard to find in the United States. And I didn't feel like spending the money and trying to import it.
Yeah, talking to Zach before we started recording, we are both genuinely really looking forward to that build. So really hope we get it done because we're quite excited to see it.
Congrats to Scott Primo for his amazing figure. I think as we look at Masters, well deserved. His talent is super high, and um, I'm gonna plug Scott and ask Scott to come back and give us a seminar. I think that's one of the great things about AMPS. You got masters coming back like Jeff, sharing their craft. So congrats to Scott. Really well done. I loved his Panther too. He entered a great piece. He had a couple great pieces at the show. So yeah, super stoked to see him at that level.
It was the first time a figure has won a Best in Show at AMPS because
Hmm.
I think really it's a technicality because I think only for like the last 2 years has it been able to be a best in or the best figure has been eligible for Best in Show. So,
Hmm.
but it was pretty cool. It was a good figure. Scott's awesome. He's a cool dude. Well, since we're talking about shows, this is a topic that kind of came from some conversations we were having with Peter, who was at Peter Fislowski, who was at Motion with our buddy Mickle last week before last, within the last couple of weeks. I can't remember exactly when it was. Not that long ago.
Last weekend, the weekend after AMPS.
Okay, so last weekend, I know I was having like serious FOMO because I want to go to that show so bad. But after the awards, we were kind of talking about how things get awarded at shows like this and SMC, and less so maybe with like some American style shows where some of this stuff doesn't really matter, but I feel like it still kind of does. And what I'm talking about is table presence. And Peter had some opinions about his own work and how it stacks up to some work on the table. And my take on it was that table presence really matters. It matters more than I think people might realize that it does. And when you are competing at a high level, you have to take it into account. And I've also had this conversation with John Bryan too, after some feedback he got from SMC last year. And it kind of boils down to you either want to do it or you don't. If you don't want to build models in a particular way, then you don't have to. But then, in my opinion, at the same time, if you feel like you're not getting recognize in the way that you want, you either have to change or you have to accept that. And if you want to accept that, there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of things I'm not going to do because I just don't want to do it. I'm going to do the things the way I want to do it. And even if the judges don't see it the way I see it, I'm still going to do what I want to do. But as I've kind of like leveled up in competition, like modeling competitions, I personally have taken into not like doing things for the judges, but doing things to make my piece stand out in the sea of stuff on the table, right? Hopefully this all makes sense to you guys.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, just look around AMPS. The pieces that stood out the most were the ones that were presented extremely well. I mean, there's a reason why from now on, like with exception of the Firefly, because I was rushed to finish it. I mean, all of my pieces now have bases. All of them are elevated bases, and I think it does matter a lot. The model on a piece of paper or the bare tabletop, just it could be the best model in the world, but it just doesn't grab you. It doesn't sell itself. You are doing the model a disservice. It's like this is probably a crude analogy, but like if you paint something beautiful, with exception of Banksy, let's put Banksy aside, but even then it has presence because it's on a notable spot. But like you could paint a beautiful painting, but if you don't even frame it, like I don't know, it just takes away from it. I think you really do need to consider again, I'm not telling you how to model. I'm going to make that big caveat because I know people love to just cherry pick words from me. But if there's something to be said about great table presence, and you look at SMC, you look at motion, the Europeans know how to do it, and they know how to do it really, really well. I think some of it is at in the US, and when I think about those people, it's like the Scott Primos, the Andy Goldens, the John Rosengrants, those folks with a little bit just a different league, I guess you could say, or a different perspective on how to show their work. So I'm with you. I think it's super important, and also hot take, if you try it, like I've tried it, I actually am like, wow, I really enjoy this. Like you're not only building the model, but you're setting up either the scene or how you're going to present it. And presenting it could be as simple as getting a very nice finished base that's plain, bolting it to it, but having like again, black crisp base, nice nameplate, it bolted to it, perfect framing. Like even little things like that matter a lot in terms of showing your work, and giving it the podium to stand on at a show, where I think that's lacking in a lot of places.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, John. Going to MMSI, you get a lot of the people that come there and they'll build a display with like black velvet and it'll be multi-tiered and kind of be taller or wider. And they'll put the pieces, they'll arrange the pieces on that velvet in a specific way that they want to for I guess kind of table impact, in the context of our discussion. And I know for our show out here at Rocky Mountain Expo, that there's a lot of judging systems, and I don't want to get into a debate of what's right and what's wrong and whatever, but we specifically ask our judges to take the entire presentation into account, where in other judging systems sometimes you're asked specifically to not take that into account. So I agree with you and on that. And then with regards to SMC last year, one thing that really struck me was the use of color. Not just, I mean, again, almost everything had a base, and not to take away from that part of the discussion, but also the colors really pop. I feel like at SMC, and so that's another way that I thought that pieces really jumped out of the table at you. In addition to basing and context and all the other things that you just hit on.
Yeah, I'm with Scott. I do. Scott brought up a good point a little while ago too about Four Corners, about taking each piece and making it a project, and you see that even with the bases in these bigger shows in Europe and MMSI. You do see it there also, where they treat the base more as is part of the whole. It's not just a secondhand. Oh, I'm just going to put this on some dirt and make that look good. So I think the presentation, the presence that it gives the judges a better view of what you're capable of and what you're available to do, and it tells a story, or it helps tell a story. I'll say. So I really do think that the presentation and the model together are just what keys to moving up in that level.
Yeah, what Scott was saying is kind of where I was coming from with this. Basing is super important. Like, yeah, I don't put anything just on the table anymore. Those are over. It just looks better on literally anything. But like kind of like what Scott was saying that yeah, subject choice does come into play. For you can disagree whether or not it should. Like I kind of feel like maybe it shouldn't, but it does, right? Like if you do so like you do just a regular old green Sherman, right? Or an OD Sherman on a little base. I don't care how good it is. Chances are at a high level show, it's probably going to get looked over for better or worse, for wrong or right. It's boring. Like it when you can think about what else is out there that you could possibly do. Yeah, if you're trying to reward a piece, if you're a judge and you're trying to reward a unique piece or a standout piece, yeah, you're probably gonna pass over just a plain Jane olive drab Sherman with the star on the turret. You can disagree whether or not it should if it's done to a high level, and I think there's an argument that it shouldn't, but that's just not how the world works. And if you want to compete at a high level, you either have to accept that and accept that your preferred thing may not pass muster on first pass with a judging team, or you don't, right? I'm going to do, like I already mentioned, I'm going to do things the way I want to do things. And if the judges don't recognize it for what it is, I am okay with that. But some people aren't. And I get where they're coming from because it is kind of frustrating to you want to do things the way you want to do it. Like JB said, like I don't want to be told how to model, and I don't want to just do things because I think the judges are going to really like this. Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at.
I think when we've had a lot of people on here like Spencer and some of the other people that have talked specifically about how you put a piece together and those kind of things, it's interesting that they talk about using color and content to sort of draw your eye to where it wants to go, and I think that's a little bit of a factor too, at least for me. You see a piece, and a lot of times maybe on first pass you might not, you take a look at the piece and you're like, oh, that's really nice, but then you kind of move on. And other pieces, you look at it and something really catches your eye and draws you into maybe the story that's being portrayed, or if it's a piece where somebody has replicated photos, your eye starts to get drawn towards specific details, like, if it's burned out or if it's damaged, or especially the figures, what are the figures doing, elements like that.
It's funny. No, it's not. So, like, one thing I've noticed is not even so much the feedback from judges or anyone who's marking the work. It's, I know a comment. I think it was Peter who was saying that. I think something that bothered him is that just general public and attendees of the show were kind of just walking past. And I get it. That can be like super disheartening. Where it's just like, I put a lot of effort into this, and why is no one looking at it and stuff like that. I get it, and it's like it's already been said by everyone already that, like, if you want people to really be like, whoa, eyes drawn to this, and that's not working with the style you already do, again, either change up or accept it for what it is. And I get that, like, again, like most people here, I'm not someone who's going to be like, I'm going to change how I do everything because someone else will prefer it. But also, I'm not going to complain if I put a piece on the table and it's not, for example, getting attention, because sometimes light ghost gray just isn't going to grab the attention. Say something like that's quite poppy and vibrant, say like a Luftwaffe scheme would. Sometimes it can be just something as simple as, it's no reflection of you as a modeler, your skill, or what you've done. It's just that what you've done is gray, and what's stood next to it is greens and browns and blues and other colors. The human mind and eyes are very basic. We like color. We like things that are vibrant and poppy. Our eyes go to them. If something's dull gray, washed out, or has got a very magnolia palette, the eye just kind of ignores it. And that is unfortunately a factor that it's like TJ said, olive drab Sherman. It's green. What's not green? You've got like Panthers and Tigers that can be multi-tonal, like tricolor, different aircraft, Spitfires, greens and browns, or grays and greens, or you can have an F-14 gray. It's sometimes it's just how it is, and it's easy to get disheartened by, oh, people aren't looking at my model. Sometimes that's just how it is. You've built a gray model.
Yeah, it's kind of because you see it a lot of times too with maybe a piece that's not that good, right?
Mm-hmm.
That when you look at it, you're well, like when a discerning eye looks at it and you're like, wow, that's not that good, but it's got a ton of peer awards or poker chips or people taking pictures of it, posting it on Facebook or whatever because it's flashy or large. That's because the lizard brain takes over, right? And people are attracted. And then, of course, when someone else sees someone looking at it, then they go look at it. And then it just kind of like everyone just funnels to it. And it kind of goes back to, I think it was Men in Black, right? When that was Will Smith's character, right?
Yeah.
When he's getting recruited and he's talking to Agent K about it before he accepts. And K says something, it's a thing I've heard a million times where I can't remember exactly how he explains it or everything they're saying, but he says, in a nutshell, a person is smart, but people are stupid, right? Or easily confused or panicky, or I can't remember exactly
Like easily
what he
tricked.
says.
Yeah.
Right.
This
So,
is when they're on the park bench. Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, a single person can look at a piece and be like, a really well done TPS scheme, right? Like, oh, that is really good. There's a lot of nuance going here, but it's also a TPS scheme, a tactical paint scheme, right? Like the boring Air Force scheme, or Navy scheme, right? That could be stood next to something that is maybe not technically as good, but like really, is bright and vibrant. And the lizard brain takes over, and you're like, ooh, look at this thing that's really, flashy or whatever. Like that's just the nature of how people work, like you were saying, Jensen. It sucks, absolutely. And especially as someone that does a lot of olive drab, like I understand, yeah, olive drab isn't always the coolest thing. That's why personally I always try to push it and do different things and add things to my model. That's why I like Shermans that have tracker armor on it, or I find pictures of there's a random on there like that. Those are things that I try to do to make my model stand out against the sea of olive drab that it's going to be up against.
And a good point to this is we can talk about the size of models as well. Like, and this is going to make me sound really what's new. But like, it's really easy to hide mediocrity in something that's very busy because it's big. Like, it's so easy to put a huge piece on the table and hide a plethora of flaws, but because there's a lot going on, you can distract from it. We see it so often at shows, humongous pieces that have to be wheeled into a show. It's all rather mediocre, but because it's big and it's so busy, people seem to look past it because there's so much to look at. It's one of those, it's easy to say, don't be disheartened if you feel people aren't giving you the credit or acknowledgement you deserve with your work on the table, because it also works the other way around. There's a lot of people who are very impressed by not very impressive things. So what's that? Your boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer.
Well, it's a lot like building a website. Somebody's going to click on your website. You've got mere seconds before they move on to another website. So you've got to make an impression. And so I think there is maybe a little bit of salesmanship in what you're talking about, Jensen. And then some of this is, I think, the way that this started out with what TJ was saying. It's Panzer Blue, right? You get these people that get upset because Panzer Gray is lightened and light blues put in it and everything. And it's not technically, I'm doing the little air quotey thing for those of you listening at home. It may not technically be right, but it's like it's a lot better for the eye to look at. It's a lot catchier to see a vehicle with a paint finish that has some life and some depth and some light and shadow and than just a very, very dark color that just tends to kind of not be as interesting in very, very small size, maybe, as other colors.
Yeah, and I know we're straying off the original topic, but I really like this, and it hits close to home because the Yog Panther I'm building right now, I'm going to be deliberate about really punching the colors, and the modelers that have inspired me are actually not the Europeans, but the Chinese. There are a couple modelers there. One of them goes by, he has like the 99% logo on his Insta. He just did the Churchill that took gold at Motion. He's done a Panther A in the past. He's got a few modern pieces. but he has a style of just super punchy colors, and it's not accurate, but damn, it grabs the eye. And it's not only his colors, but the way he's got stowage. Like it is just, and it, yes, his latest Churchill is dragging a tarp with a tow cable. Is that realistic? Highly likely not, but that grabs my eye. That is so good looking. He goes by Azhao Kang, Azhaokang. 99% is his profile picture, but man, his work is just so provocative in terms of colors and table presentation. Like you're immediately gravitated towards it. So I fully embrace that too. Like I'm going to push it on this Yogg Panther. It's not going to be accurate, especially how it's configured and how it's painted, but I'm just going to try something out of my comfort zone.
Zach, what do you think?
No one cares.
Yeah, good point. Anyway, moving on.
No,
Right.
seriously though,
Yeah.
Zach, do you have anything to add?
Not really. I think you all have hit it pretty well on the head. Sorry, I was looking through this guy's profile and I'm a little mind blown.
Dude, it's so good. He's got a
It's
Yogg Tiger.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah, I'm guessing he's doing 331 next. And I'm
I
just,
think so. I think he said so.
damn, his stuff is so good. And I love how his tarps or like netting,
They're
like
so I don't know what it is about them, but they're just like
I
they
know.
hit you. Like
I'm gonna try to copy it on the Yogg Panther in a way where his Bradley as well with the I think it's like Barracuda mesh or something on it.
Yeah.
Like, oof.
T90M or whatever this is that's
Yes.
fully covered in a tarp, and you're like, the tarp
Yeah.
is the most interesting thing you've ever seen on a model ever.
Right. Like his Panther A has that tarp on the
Yeah,
barrel
yeah.
and a couple other places like that. It's just it's like it's very fluid, if that makes sense.
That would be the word I would use. Yeah.
Man, you talk about table presence, and you look at his Churchill at motion, and it does stand out against the rest. Like it's a simple black base with a nice data plate on it, but man, the subject is so provocative. It really pulls you in. So I think it exemplifies TJ's point around table presence.
If you go back to around October of last year, he's got a post of a T72B, and his display is a contact block, like a piece of contact.
So
ERA.
good.
Yeah.
If you want table presence, you put your tank on a piece of ERA armor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's even got like the data plate painted
Yeah.
on it. It's like, man, just really, really well done. And you can see his model, especially at T72. You're looking at it and like the
There's
colors,
so many colors.
so provocative. And it's just like, man, I don't even know if this is accurate. I don't even care because
Who cares? Yeah.
it just is so
You've got better things to worry about than if this rivet is in the right spot or not.
right. He's got like blue hues all
Yeah.
over it, and like, man, it's freaking good. And same with his Panther A. I mean, you look at his Panther A, and he's got super bright red and like the dull gray barrel, and everything about it I love. So as we talk about table presence, he is a great example, and rightfully so, recognized at Motion, where he's just it's just beautiful pieces.
Hey, can you spell that out again real quick?
Yeah, it's AZHAOKANG. Listeners, if you're listening right now, type it into your phone. AZHAOKANG. Follow him. His work is fantastic, super inspirational, and he's like, I guess I'll call him the tarp guy. So he's Jeff's brother from another mother. It's like, gosh, and again, his Churchill is a great example. Very big, simple black base, beautiful data plate, and the vehicle itself is just so interesting to look at. And yeah, it's dragging this giant ass tarp, which would probably be marred in the tracks at some point, along with the tow cable. But you know what? I don't care. It's freaking awesome. I'm in for it, and it's just so interesting. Like I love every aspect of it. And if you look at his macro shots, like there's a blending of like a whitewash worn green. Like it's just, I don't know what's going on, but I like every piece of it. So yeah, listeners, check it out. Yeah, tarp guy. So listeners, check that out. But let's roll right in. Speaking about international folks and competitions, let's talk about SMC real quick. Rooms just dropped. They sold out in the first 5 minutes, but don't worry. If you check back frequently, you'll likely get a room. People cancel throughout the year, and just keep on it. Don't get discouraged. there's definitely the you'll be able to get one. If not, Vendehoven is like literally a walk down the street, so you could stay there as well and walk over. I know some people did that last year, so if you're not at the venue, that's okay. You can still certainly enjoy the show and probably even get some peace and quiet if you don't want to stay at the bar till 2 or 3 in the morning. But it's not a deal breaker. So again, if you did not get a thing at a showroom, you can still go to the show. It's easy to get around there, whether it be public transit or just walking. But with that said, hotels are open. The show is really kicking off. I think some of the classes already filled up. I certainly I picked one. I got Calvin Tans. I'm really stoked about. He's going to be talking about painting faces, which I'm actually really excited about. And I think Doc's in there with me as well. So listeners, check those out. I know there's still some spots for like Tae Sung and a few other fantasy figure painters. So it should be a great show. It's shaping up to be, I think they've even expanded the space as well again, which is pretty awesome. And Robert and his team are consummate professionals in all of it. It's going to be super smooth. I can't wait. The pre-show this time for us, we're going into Germany. We're going to be Spearhead and cross the Rhine, and then take a look at the Hurtgen Forest, spend some time in Cologne with our good friend Stefan, and get up to SMC on Thursday night. So it should be a blast. And for listeners, again, I know there's a lot more Americans going this year than usual. I think DB Scale Model Studios, so David Bryan Bridges is going to be there. Stan Spooner plans to go. Robbie Knopf's plans to go. It's funny, I was talking to Robbie yesterday, so he's like, yeah, so when do you guys start planning SMC? I'm like, literally the day it ends the previous year. So for our listeners, if you're unfamiliar with SMC, it is so popular that you really should start to understand and plan a year in advance, just because get your dates in order, because when those drops hit, whether it's hotels or classes, they fill up fast. And same with plane flights too. So Scott's going, he keeps on towing the line, but that's just going. So right, Scott?
Absolutely, we're gonna have a GoFundMe.
Okay, you heard it there. You heard it there
at Rocky. Yeah, so come if you're coming to Rocky, bring some pocket money and buy some sci-fi and armor kits to help Scott go to Europe.
Yes. But overall, I mean, again, folks, if you're curious around costs, it's not that much the last couple of years. Yeah, for listeners, this is really interesting. With the flight included for the show in 2024, which was a little shorter for us, I spent, without the inclusion of dinners and the vendors, it was about $1,500. So it was pretty cheap. And that included Clairvaux, Bastogne, and Eindhoven. So that was about, I don't know, I think that was a 6-day trip. Last year, which was a little longer, that was about 10. That actually went up to 2,700, but we spent 4 days in London. So that's where a bulk of those costs came from. Once you're in mainland Europe and you're traveling throughout, whether it's car or staying in little hotels, it's like super affordable. The biggest factor is your plane flight, which last year it was more expensive too. So if you're flying into mainland Europe, expect around $1,200 and then probably $1,000 on top of it if you really want to enjoy yourself, but it's not terribly expensive. So
yeah.
Save
last year I did the quick tour. I didn't join them. And mine was around 1,200. So that's
not bad at all.
That was plane tickets, car, hotel, and food, but I didn't count vendors and stuff like that. So
yeah.
So
those never count.
Never count. That's
never count vendor.
That's a different color of money according to the government. So that's not in our annual budget. That comes from somewhere else.
Yeah, that's somewhere that's different.
Yeah, but in all serious listeners, if you haven't thought about it, like consider going. And you can even save money not even staying at the venue. You can find some really cheap Airbnbs or local hotels in Vendehoven. And then if you don't want to rent a car, totally fine. It's easy to train down from Amsterdam into Eindhoven and then either get an Uber, take a bus, or even walk from Eindhoven station over to Vendehoven. So
ride a bike.
Exactly.
Ride a bike. It is the Netherlands.
Yeah.
They love their bicycles.
Yeah, so we're certainly looking forward to this year. Please, if you're considering, go. The European folks are amazing at hospitality, and the show is 12 out of 10. Nothing compares to it. So anything else to add? Jensen, TJ, Scott, you're going. So Grant, you're going.
Mm-hmm. Does everyone have a project picked out?
No,
whatever.
I will decide on September the 1st.
TJ, he's got like 6 months to figure out a project. What are you talking
exactly.
No, but I do, kind of. I'll change my mind. I do that a lot.
Look, dude, You please work on it now.
Chip away at it.
You said in our SMC chat, like, oh, I want you guys to
I did.
force me to do it. Look, this is being serious. Like, I love, telling you you're not going to finish it because it's funny, but like, I want you to be working on it right now because I've told you this a million times, and I've told other people this. You're an amazing modeler, and if you put all the time you have into being a modeler, you'll be even better. That's the thing that pisses me off so much. You're already really good. You're one of the best modelers I know, and you have the ability to be even better, and you squander it, and it frustrates me so much. I would kill to have the amount of time you have to freaking model. So please start working on your model.
I frustrate myself, believe me. I want to because it's nice not having that stress leading up to the show days and like weeks in advance. It's like, oh no, project's done. I have nothing to worry about. Instead of your desk being an absolute and being like, I've got to pack. My flight's in like 8 hours. Yeah, it's nice to not have to deal with that. I have projects in mind. I want to do them. I want to take a few. That's pushing it. A couple this year. One of them being an aircraft and one of them being a piece of armor. I do want to do a civilian subject. Me and Zach were talking about this the other night. But yes, have projects in mind. I've got them out the stash. I just need to, physically do the thing that I think about often. Moving on.
Tell us about common potatoes.
Right, what the I saw the edit. Yeah, let's talk about comfort potatoes.
Okay, so there's the reason why I changed that. I'm the one that changed it. So that is a phrase that my friend Joey that I used to work with, that is what he came up with, that someone else is their comfort potato at work, right? The person that you feel better when they're there with you, like you're carrying around like a little potato. I don't know where it came from. I just thought it was really funny. You had comfort blankets, which I thought was lame. I think comfort potato is funnier.
Right. Okay. How comfort blanket? How's that? That's an actual phrase. Who in the ever living God says, "Oh yeah, I like to stay in my comfort potato when I'm doing something"? That is such a blue collar pipe fitting saying. I'm having none of it. No, get out of here with that. Comfort blanket, everyone knows.
And they say British people come off as superior sounding.
I know. Where would people get that idea?
Yeah, there are things I want to talk about. I want to talk about comfort blankets in our hobby, specifically in our techniques. And I know it's a discussion we've kind of had before, but not on an episode. And what it is do we find ourselves so comfortable and comfy using a technique that we hold ourselves back from advancing in a certain way? Like, for example, like using airbrush for certain weathering effects, rather than say pushing it to enamels and oils and maybe weathering pencils, because we're like, oh no, I know how to do this and I can do it really easily, rather than be like, I'm going to experiment and try something new and maybe I'll get an even better result. Do we wrap ourselves in the bubble wrap of comfort out of fear of maybe messing something up, or it just becomes so familiar and so second nature, we just do it on autopilot? Because why do anything different? And I'm just curious, like with everyone in chat, have you been able to self-identify any of these things where you're just like, oh yeah, I'm guilty of being very comfy with this technique or way of doing something?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's why I'm trying to push it so hard on the Yog Panther. And I've been trying to push it in a lot of my builds lately, where I think there's a comfort just from honestly everything from techniques that you use to displaying your model. I think specifically around colors, I've found my models to be, I don't know, looking back, they could be punchier, and that's what I'm trying to do for the Yog Panther. I'm gonna do some crazy things on it. Some of them might not work, but we're gonna give it a go. I do think it's the way to learn. If you look at, gosh, even the figures I painted for the Firefly, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to try to punch these a lot, either using the contrast paints from AK, making sure I bump the highlights, and get out of that comfort zone. And you could see it even on the Jeep as well. Ooh, the best example is Rocket's Ride, the van, where in some of those cases, I was like, this might be a little bit too punchy. And honestly, it didn't come out punchy enough. So I think that's where I see my comfort is just the overall finishing style. I want to jazz it up a little bit. I want to make it a little bit more interesting and eye-catching. So that's something that I'm trying not to default to is, just dull colors. I don't know. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, Jensen, it's a great discussion question. I think not so much specifically for one technique or another, but just if I have a technique I'm comfortable with, it's fully onboarded, I use it. And if I don't, I blow it up in my head to be 10 times harder than it actually is. A great example is what JB's saying about painting figures. Like I just am so unreasonably, stupidly reluctant to pick up a paintbrush and put paint on a figure. It's just dumb, and I'm just dumb because of it. So yeah, I just 100%. It's the comfort zone, and just got to be willing to find a way to do things that you're not comfortable with, and just deal with it. I mean, because what's the worst that can happen? You paint a figure's face. It looks like an orc. You wipe the paint off and you do it again, or you just paint over it. It's not like anybody's going to jail, even Zach.
I don't know about that. The last model I built, which I still have yet to actually post finished photos of, I should probably do that. Is that Resin Tech MT25 that I converted to like a Butte Panzer. And on that, I pushed the color modulation to a level that I've never done on like a non-Warhammer thing before. Because I do that, for painting my Warhammer figures, because you have to make them pop on the table. But on a historical model, I have never taken color modulation to that level before. That is very outside my comfort zone. Last year, because apparently my modeling now consists of building a single what if Soviet subject every year. On my other what if Soviet subject for last AMPS, I did some modulation, but I didn't push it as far as I probably should have or could have. So this time I went into the painting of this vehicle with the intent of I'm going to go as hard as I can on this. And I think I did. And I hated it for a very long time. And I'm still not a big fan of it. I don't think color modulation is just my thing. Like I just don't think it's my vibe. But I wanted to show myself and prove to myself that I can still do it, even if it's not something I want to use a lot, even if it's not something that I like for my models. I love seeing it on other people's models. I love like Adam Wilder stuff. I just don't necessarily like the process, and it's not the vibe I want for my models. But I wanted to tell myself I can do this or I can't. And I think that I've shown that I am able to do so, even if I choose not to. And I think sometimes even that can be a good thing of if it's a technique that you want to try out, you might not like it. You might not like this new thing, but you should still try to do something different, to push yourself, even if it does end up being I don't want to use that, but I have that under my belt if I ever want to come back to that, or if I ever want to explore maybe a variation of it. And then you still have that base of knowledge from just going out and trying something new. And that's what I pulled from that project is I may never do color modulation at all, or like to this standard again, but I now have at the very least some basic principles I can follow if I want to, or I can take that to, maybe my airbrushing skills are a little better now, maybe something like that. Maybe I learned something else out of this, even if the technique I tried that pushed me isn't something I want to bring into my repertoire normally.
Yeah, I like that. You make a good point of like push it, even if it works, it might not be for you. I think at a time I've done it is actually the KV, the most recent build. I really like my builds look kind of rendered and almost not realistic. With the shadows and like all that stuff and modulation. I do like them to kind of not look real and really smooth with lighting and shading and such. But with the KV, I did a whitewash, and I don't know why, never been a huge fan of whitewashes. But one thing I really wanted to do was build up a lot of texture in the paint. And with that, I did I think about 5 or 6 different layers of hairspray chipping, chipping. And I honestly feel the KV is one of my best finishes because it has that depth and it has those layers. It's got, it's 3 different layers of 4BO chipping. So that's different layers, and then 3 different layers of the whitewash, going through different shades of white. The top being like a more punchy, fresher white, the others being a slightly toned down gray. It's a technique I've wanted to do for a while, but I've always been kind of scared to do it because there's been a few times I've used hairspray chipping and I've got weird finishes, and it's just not chipped. I don't want to say chipped properly, but it's come away from the model, just not how it looks in videos. so I've always kind of avoided it. But this time it's really worked, and I really liked it, and I want to push it again further on future builds. Like when you see like Adam Wilder's builds are they're notorious for having texture. They've got so much depth in the paintwork and so much going on. I would like to then I would like to combine my usual technique and that new technique. So the paint has texture and depth, whilst also having like the lighting, the shading, and shadows. A combination of everything. If I can get to a point where I can combine them all and I'm happy with it, I will be delighted. Yeah, that's kind of where I found myself. I was scared to do it. Never wanted to do it. I was comfy not doing it, but whitewashes can't really be that smooth. So I kind of had no choice.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way, but I kind of fall back on colors for myself, that I have a favorite color. If I feel like I'm not hitting something right, I'll go back to that color for a figure, like is red. If you look at my cabinet, I have a lot of red stuff in there, figures, which is a problem. I need to, it's a comfort for me. So, because I know how to paint it well and tone it out, do it for fading and everything like that. And that is my comfort potato, if you want to call it that. And I fall back on that. So now it's not as grandeur as some of the other things you guys talked about, but it's just something that's my thing. It's like it's just a color, and it's just I got to find my way around it and I got to find that different color. That's where mine sits at.
That's good. Yeah, because red, I find reds, especially with miniatures as well. Red's a hard color to nail and like highlight and shadow. That's a tough color to do.
Yeah, try yellow.
Oof.
No.
Anything on the yellow spectrum. It's why I try and avoid an Alpine Miniatures British tanker uniform that's like the khaki yellowy color. Mm-hmm. I couldn't shade that to save the shadows. I just couldn't get the color right. I was like, you know what? This tank doesn't need a figure.
Yeah.
Right, great. It's always nice to delve into the minds of everyone and see what makes them squirm and uncomfortable at the bench. But it's always nice if one day we can get out of our comfort zone and actually push ourselves and be really happy with the result. It can only lead to bigger and better things on the workbench. So yeah, thank you for everyone for your input on that discussion.
Well, thanks, Jensen. That was a good discussion. Enjoyed everybody's perspectives on that. And yeah, by the way, what time is it over there in England?
Well, Scott, it's 1643. Not by time, but by year. Hearken, good folk, and travellers afar. Doth thou crave in garments most fine and curious wares? From the esteemed plastic posse cometh treasures aplenty, t-shirts, hoodie, and stickers fair. Quaff thy morning brew from mugs most noble, forged from comfort and mirth. And lo, behold, the world-renowned lounge trousers, fit for kings, knaves, and painters alike. Hie thee hence, and claim thy spoils, or they vanish into legend. Plastic posse merchandise, procure it now, lest thou be sorely vexed.
Jensen, this is your magnum opus.
This is why I'm here. I do this, and this is what pays the bills. Thank you, everyone, once again for joining us for episode 137, and a massive thank you to our partners, Microworld Games, Tankcraft, Tamiya USA, Bases by Bill, and AK Interactive, and of course, my wonderful co-hosts here, and our guest, Zachary Grizzle. Join us next time for episode 138. We are going to have another action-packed episode for you all. So join us then. Get modeling, post your work on the page, and we can't wait to see you in the next one. Stay safe, happy modeling, and ta-ta for now.
Well, one of the ways that you can help support the Plastic Posse is to become a Plastic Posse Outrider. If you want to become a Plastic Posse Outrider, it's easy. You can even do it wearing lounge trousers. Just go to our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/ Plastic Posse Podcast and set up a reoccurring donation there. These contributions help offset the cost of bringing you the posse. There are 3 different tiers of support starting at just $1 a month. There are some great benefits to being an outrider, like early access to the podcast, premium access to the hosts, the chance to appear in a podcast, and exclusive PPP content and special social events at model shows.
Let's recognize our amazing deputy marshals. These loyal contributors support what the posse does, and we genuinely appreciate each and every one of you. They are, in no particular order, Kevin Johnson, Chaz Teets, Matt Parvis, Jacob Ford, Robert Klein, Todd Reach, Brett Devance, Brett Johnson, Angel Garcia, Carl Doran, Pat Brown, Ryan Smith, Alamo Squadron Model Fiesta, Curtis Towers, Winston Gould, The Quiet Corner Modeler, Daryl Miller, Rob Booth, David Clark, Robbie Knopfs, Wesley Becker, Eric Daileach, David Wassel, Matt Tutman, Zach Pease, Brett Marcand, Greg Williams, Nick Wolf, Sean Earl, Black Hat Scale Models, Craig Jarbo, Red Beach One Studios, James Morando, Mike Norris, Stephen Rodwell, Rick Cooper, Eric Kavina, John Hale, Eric Kane, Logan Hansen, Tim Gidcombe, Dan Newman, Robert Blocker, Tyler Moore, Derek Post, Craig Flynn, Kenneth Childers, Drew Gardner, Scott Hall, Frank Perrone, Jeremy Diamond, Terry Wilkinson, Chris Lovewell, Andrew Callis, Ethan Idmill, Steve Baker, Jay Kidd, Brandon Gentry, Lee Fogel, Mark Ewing, Toadman, Model Doc, Greg James, Let's Recall John Everett, Uncle Buck, Mark Bradley, Eric Brubaker, Jeremy Moore, DB Scale Model Studio, Jeremy Elliott, Mike Talley, Previous Seat, Mediocre Middle-Aged Modeler, and JC Osborne.
And let's not forget our posse foreman. This crew is made up of posse outriders who give the deputy marshals a hand, and we also thank them for their support. Toy My Workshop, Andy, the voice of Bob, Graham, Keith, Dwayne, AK Armor, Bill, Casey, Therese, Russ, Stefan, Mickle, LeVar, Gil, Mike, Michael, Scott, Emery, the Krieger, Aussie Modeler, Jeff, Eddie, Ross, Warhoff Models, G. Baker, Tom Stuff, Crazy Loca, Lynn, Cliff, Damian, Cody, Nuke Man Mike, Paul, iBones Models, Mr. Grizz, Jackson, Joel, Chris, Jamie, MD Models, Papa Steve Munsell, JV, Eric, Matthew, and David.
And of course, our $1 and free posse outriders. Thanks, guys.